It's going to be a very different spring for Ohio State coming off its national championship win over Notre Dame, which the season went into January 20th, so they were already kind of behind. And so now that they've gone through it, I'm Stephen Means, that's Andrew Gillis, they're going to handle spring differently going forward. It starts with it's not really going to be a spring game. It's more of a spring showcase. And Ryan Day said the details on that are still being kind of figured out here. But I don't know, Andrew, they're having to balance trying to make sure they don't go too crazy this spring for when you're trying to prepare for a potential 16 and 17 game season, which they played 16 games this past year, but also there's a lot of new guys. How did Ryan Day maybe describe what that balance is going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, you tried to toe the line, and I think he said, one of the things, or I know he said one of the things that you talk about is, wanting to get guys like Sonny and Igbinosun, guys that have played a lot of football. You don't really need to see a ton of them, and you want to get the young guys up to speed, but he said you got to do that really quickly, and you got to understand that you're not going to have this great long spring practice period. He said spring practice goes from 5 weeks to 4 weeks this year. This is something that it's a condensed schedule now, and there are other issues that he very clearly wants to talk about but didn't talk about, like the transfer portal and all these other things that relate to kind of the longer season.
Oh, he talked about the transfer portal.
He mentioned it, but he was like, that's for another time.
He doesn't like the December window of the transfer portal at all.
But I think when you look at this spring, it is a mix of trying to get the older guys kind of off their feet. Caleb Downs doesn't really need to do a lot. So he mentioned Sonny and Davison. Do we need to see if Jeremiah Smith is good? Do we need to see Jeremiah Smith? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we saw that. So it's like there's an interesting mix of trying to work in a lot of new guys. And I think maybe last year's team would have been the perfect team to just say, spring practice is just going to be kind of chill. And we're just going to ease into it. But, he did mention some OTA style stuff where, I think where you're going to see a lot of lighter work. Guys are not really exerting themselves. So it's crazy that we're here. It's crazy that we're already at spring practice. It feels like the season ended like 3 weeks ago. The first thing that I noticed when I walked into the room was, oh, they've already changed the schedule. It says Texas on August 30th. Huh, interesting. And Ryan Day goes at his press conference. He goes, we got to get ready. We play Texas in 170, however many days. Like, this is something that they're trying to balance the line between. We have to rest guys. We have to understand that there is a balance between playing a lot of football and, making sure that they're rested, but also we got to make sure guys are ready when we play Texas.
The OTA style thing stood out to me because we continue to talk about the NFLization of college football, and that's just another way you do that. It's Ryan Day said a lot less padded practices this spring, a lot more only in helmets, a lot more just teaching because the spring is about individual development. That's always been true even before some of this stuff, but the spring, I'm really interested to see what this is going to look like with the spring showcase. He said some guys might not even play. Like, guys might just opt out of that, which means, to your point, Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs, Davison Igbinosun, don't think they're going to play at all. And if they do, it's probably for a series, and maybe they get them a couple of highlights so fans who show up for that game get to say they saw Jeremiah Smith in Ohio Stadium. But that's my key thing, the OTAs thing, because NFLization of college football. This is going to be a very different spring. They're going to handle things lightly. They're not going to give them anybody a heavy workload. It's going to be a lot more teaching, because you were very old last year. You are now very young at a lot of different spots. You also got guys moving positions, like C.J. Hicks is now a defensive end. We'll continue to talk about this on Buckeye Talk. We've been previewing spring practice over the next 2 weeks, so go listen to that wherever you find podcasts and get the text, 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. I'm Steve, and that's Andrew. We're not taking it light this spring, though, so see you there.